If I woke up tomorrow morning and realized that I was living a life that no longer fit, what would I do? If I was starting my pretirement today, what would I do? This is part one of a five-part series. Well, if I woke up feeling that way, I I certainly wouldn't just jump to quitting my job. I wouldn't I would hold back from doing anything drastic, and I wouldn't blow up my life in any way. I wouldn't book the one-way ticket to the other side of the world. I wouldn't I wouldn't blow everything up, and it wouldn't be a drastic thing. Now, mind you, if I woke up in the morning feeling this just isn't working anymore, chances are there have been signs and little whispers along the way that have given me that impression, right? And have it sort of builds up. So then when you get to the point where you're just like, that's it, that's it, I'm done. I tell you, first step, first thing that I would do, take a beat. Take a beat, pause. You don't know what it is that has pushed you to this point because you're in the thick of it. You are in the emotion of it. You have been in survival mode, so you're not thinking clearly. So the first thing that you need to do if you are ready to sort of redesign your pretirement and figure it out now, the first thing you need to do is to stop and pause and get quiet and get still and get back to self, get back to who you are at your core. And so what does that mean? How do you do that? How do you take a pause? It's going to look different for you than it did for me, than does for somebody else. It depends on what is in your way, what is getting in your way right now of taking that pause and getting quiet and getting still and having that time to think. What is it that's getting in the way? And you need to carve out a way to temporarily quiet that. For me, I did a staycation. I booked myself, I used points and perks that I had built up and booked myself a weekend away. Now, mind you, I lived alone at the time. So in theory, I could have done it like at home, at my own home. But the problem with being at my own home is that I would fall into my routines of things that were getting in my way and things that were distracting me, right? And I would get pulled into my job, I would get pulled into work, get pulled into drama, I would get pulled into whatever. So I booked a staycation where I went not too far away from where I lived, booked it in a really nice hotel, and brought my journal and had little other plans other than to relax, de-stress, clear my mind, get quiet, and journal like crazy. And I've shared my journaling approach previously. I use my journal as a prayer book in a way. I use it as a way to communicate with my faith, with my higher power, with my belief of who and what God is. And I would write out questions, him or her. I would write out things that were worrying me, things that were concerning me, things that were getting in my way. And I would sit in silence until I had a compelling thing that I wanted to write back to those questions. And I don't feel like I was answering my own questions, but I wasn't answering my own questions. The answers were coming to me, and I strongly believe that. And that has been my way of communicating and really getting in touch with the core of who I am and my instinct and what's happening like in my brain and in my heart. So, step 1, if you wake up one morning and this just doesn't fit anymore, no need to do anything drastic. Your first step is to figure out how you're gonna take a beat. How are you gonna take a pause? What's that gonna look like for you? It It wasn't a one and done for me. I had to do that a, s- a series of time over over a period of time. I did not have anybody specifically guiding me. I wish I had. I wish and I wish I had connection with other women who were going through the same thing at the same time. That would have been that would have really been empowering, and it may have sped up my ability to do something and make a difference. Spoiler alert, I turned everything around for myself. After when I went through this whole process and I took the time to do it, I was able to design a pre-retirement life that brings me joy, brings me fulfillment, brings me income, all of those things. And if you're new here, pre-retirement is the last 10 to 15 years ish before you are ready to retire. How can you continue to earn money and support a life before retirement in a way that brings you joy? Because for many of us, the way that we have been doing it just doesn't cut it anymore. So, spoiler alert, it took me a while, but I figured it out. But the purpose of this series is to dial it back and to start from scratch. So, step one, if you are ready to start your pre-retirement and design it in the way that works for you, take a beat, take a pause. I, however that is, if that is booking a day in a hotel away from your family, if you have like lots of obligations, or going away longer, or taking time off. I mean, ultimately, it led to my sabbatical. I ended up taking a sabbatical, but I call it a sabbatical because I gave myself permission to not earn money during that 3 months. It was a 3-month sabbatical, but I had actually quit my job. I didn't take a temporary pause from my job. So I I went a little drastic, but I don't think that works for everybody, and I don't think that's feasible for everybody. So, yeah, so tell me how you want to take a beat, take a pause, and get still and get quiet to really listen closely to what's coming to you. I it just occurred to me too. You don't know that it's the job, and you don't know that it's the full job. It could be an aspect of the job. Maybe it's about taking a step back within a particular company. Sometimes we get promoted, based on our skills and our strengths and our accomplishments, and then we get promoted into a role where most of our day is spent doing stuff we don't even like doing anymore. We liked doing the stuff a job or two ago. Is it feasible to go back to that? I don't know. So, you know, it may not be the full job. It may be a piece of it. It might not be the job at all. It might be just your own mindset and how you're feeling about your own life. And it might be your relationships, the connections that you're having. Sometimes when you're in the thick of it, it's hard to tell where the angst is coming from, or where the frustration's coming from, where the sadness is coming from. So take a beat, take a pause, get quiet. My name is Amy Palmer. I am your Gen X big sister. This is part one of a 5-part series. If I were to start my retirement today, what would I do?